go again?
Oh, no, not again.
You've seen it before, haven't you?
Dom, how long have we been doing this?
Once more unto the bridge, dear friends.
Again and again and again until we're both dead.
Hello, welcome to You've Seen It Before, movie reviews connection in mind. Cocaine Bear is a horror comedy-ish, black comedy from director Elizabeth Banks, and surprise, surprise, it is about a bear that gets high on cocaine. It is very loosely based on a true story from 1985 about a bear who eats a package of cocaine that was airdropped by a drug smuggler, and instead of dying as from the overdose, as is the real life, this movie posits what would happen if the bear goes on a killing rampage because of being high on tons and tons of cocaine. Now, this review will contain spoilers of Cocaine Bear, but I'll be doing my spoiler-free thoughts first and foremost, but just so you know, there will be some spoilers later on in this review. So first and foremost, let's get some spoiler-free talk out of the way on Cocaine Bear. Is it worth seeing in theaters? Is it worth seeing with all your friends? Is it a good time at all? Or should you just give this a pass? I would say this is definitely one where it depends on how much leeway you're willing to give this movie and what your cup of tea is. Me personally, I'm not really a horror fan in general. Really, the only reason I gave this movie a shot is because I'm really more into the horror comedy elements where, yes, there can be, gross stuff going on. Some of the kills in this movie are definitely pretty gory, although I suspect they're probably tame compared to what other gore fests are out there. But aside from that, what I'm looking for in a horror comedy, and what I believe that the trailers at the very least were promising is, we're teeing things up is, bear eats cocaine, gets high, behaves very unbear-like for a second, and also kills a bunch of people, and I will say the movie starts to set that up. We are introduced to a bunch of characters who have all the hallmarks of a horror movie where, you know just enough about them, and you've established their character just enough to say, all right, now I'm ready to see them get killed in, XYZ fashion. In this case, getting mauled by a bear. I will say that's not the only way people die in this movie, of course, but that is the predominant way people go out in this film. And yes, they do set up the premise okay, and it feels like they're teeing up the ball or putting up the layup just ready to do something, and yet nothing really happens, unfortunately. The human characters are on screen for way too long, and frankly, it feels like there's two separate stories being trying to be told at the same time, and they don't really coincide with each other until, one's very briefly at the beginning and one's at the very, very end. And it feels like they're two different tones as well. One is, we have the drugs that are dropped from the plane into the forest, the Chattahoochee Forest in Georgia, and it's up to the drug dealer and his crew to go find the drugs, and then they encounter the bear along with a bunch of other local people, including a park ranger and a gang of teenage street thugs, essentially, and as well as a detective from Tennessee going out of his jurisdiction because he has a hunch that the drug dealers are coming to the forest to retrieve their drugs. So that feels like one story. There's another story involving a mom who's worried about her two tween age, 13, 12-year-old kids who go into this park and then they get encounter the bear, and it's up to her to try and find them and to make sure that they're safe. That's more of a serious angle, where the more comedic angle setup is with the drug dealer storyline, and it feels like we both switch between these two storylines too much, and we focus on the human characters way too much as well. It feels like there's the setup of this movie should focus solely on the bear eating people, and yes, you need to set up the human characters to get to that point of how is a bear going to maul this person, and yet when we finally do get to that, it feels like the movie, instead of again, it tries to go down the dark comedy hole where these characters' deaths getting mauled by a bear, are played. They should be played for some kind of laughs, or they're getting killed in the bear gets them in an unexpected way, maybe. But that doesn't really happen. It feels like these scenes are played out way too long, and while there is some fun to be had, like by the time, me personally, by the time you've got the eighth or ninth mauled by a bear scene, it's like, okay, is this really all there is? And there's also not as much of a cheap factor that I can tell to recommend this movie either, because yes, the CGI bear is not the most convincing a lot of the time. That's just kind of expected at this point. And there was a brief little gag that I thought might play into something, but never does again. It involves, I feel like it's a reused prop of a severed leg. That feels like that could have played into something, but doesn't. So there's that going on here. And finally, I feel like this is such a missed opportunity for this movie, and I'm going to get into this in the spoiler-filled section, but I will say the comedic potential of, bear eats a lot of cocaine, goes nuts. It is not taken full advantage of. It feels like this is very much a missed opportunity, and the movie, like I said, it feels too long. It feels like it sets up some things that it doesn't take advantage of. Overall, if you're going to see, a bear maul a whole bunch of people, sure. I feel like better bear action, with CGI bear action, is probably going to be done in The Revenant at that point. But yes, I can't claim it as false advertising in that it's not. It gives you bear eats cocaine and goes on a rampage. You get that. But you don't get any more than that, I feel. And I feel like this might be my personal expectations game when looking at the trailer, but it feels like the tone was not well established as far as whether it wanted to be a dark comedy or whether or not it wanted to be, pure horror movie. It just didn't accomplish that, frankly, in my opinion. So, if I was going to give Cocaine Bear a letter grade, I would say this is a C-, because, like I said, it does fulfill its title. There is a bear on cocaine, a cocaine bear, and that's about it. And not a whole lot else is add to this. So there's my spoiler-free thoughts on Cocaine Bear. So spoiler talk as to certain plot developments and character arcs that seem familiar. I don't have a whole ton to talk about in this section, but here's where I will discuss where I think is the missed opportunity. And again, this is partially my expectation gains that's playing into this, but I feel like this is something that that could play into people who, if you've seen the movie, then maybe you felt this way too, or if you're watching this anyway and you haven't seen the movie, maybe you'll agree with me. I'm going to talk a little bit about a movie that I know is not a good movie. It is definitely not the best comedy in the world, but I have soft spot for it. It's definitely a guilty pleasure of mine, and that is the movie Without a Paddle. It hit me at just the right spot in the growing up watching this, and there's a specific scene where a bear attacks our three main characters, and they play out, and again, the bear's not on cocaine. I don't even think it, eats any of the, drinks any of the beer that they have at the campsite. And it's just a regular bear doing weird things. And there's that scene. It's not long, but that is to me what I think of when you're like, what the potential has. Like, imagine if, all right, so in the bear scene in particular, Seth Green's character gets hauled off by the bear because he's in the field position, and they think he must play dead, but the bear thinks that it's its cub, and he tries to feed it, dead raccoon or whatever. And it's like, okay, here's some interesting things going. I mean, what kind of weird things would a bear on cocaine do on things? And then if the humans don't play along with it, weird expectations, then it goes on a killing spree. Then you could repeat that a couple of different ways. And it's like, yeah, why wouldn't why couldn't we get something more like that? Again, this could be the expectation game, but like I said, there's only you could have done more with this setup than this movie did, in my opinion. Like I said, there are all the horror cliches in this movie. You got the annoying disposable characters that are that you're supposed to root for to kill, or you're supposed to not want to be killed, and then you have that element set up. You also have plenty of jump scares and some of or jump scare moments that are more or less very easy to predict. One in particular is the bear is on the roof of the park rangers station, and you have the ranger and one of the kids in, they hear him on the roof, and you're like, oh, he's on the roof. And then the one kid backs up to the door that has a square glass window on there. It's like, gee, I wonder if the bear's going to reach in the claw into through the window and grab the guy's head, which is exactly what happens, even though that makes no sense because the bear very clearly was, just 1 second earlier had, you see stuff falling down the chimney, which is the complete opposite end of the room from where this door is, and it's like, all right, yeah, so the bear is magic now. Cool. So there's those kinds of elements there, and of course, like I said, there's definitely gore for the sake of gore in this. And like I said, this is probably tame compared to a lot of other gore films that are horror movies that are out there. But like I said, there's really not a whole lot of humorous elements to this. I feel like you could say the funniest, all the marketing materials where, you have the guy, Alden Ehrenreich's character screaming, a bear did cocaine, and then the scene of, a bear, sniffing cocaine and like going all wobbly and falling on top of a guy. It's like, yeah, that's one scene. That's the only scene we get of Bear acting goofy in the movie because of the cocaine. Everything else, Bear eats cocaine and Bear attacks someone and kills them because they're between Bear and cocaine. That's it. I mean, really, the only two legitimately funny scenes that I got out of this movie were, one, you got the two kids, they find a brick of cocaine and then they engage in the game of the thing the kids do where it's like, oh yeah, I've definitely done drugs. Oh yeah, really? Where? Prove it to me. And then you of course know where that's going. And then like I said, the scene in the park ranger station with the ranger and the street tough kids, and this is immediately preceding where the street tough kids get beat up by O'Shea Jackson Jr.'s character, who is the drug enforcer guy, and because he's trying to figure out where the drugs are, and the park ranger who had just gotten away from the bear mauling her bitter in the butt, and she comes in and they're talking to each other and like, oh man, he's coming back, and they're like, oh yeah, and I know, and it's like, and I was like, what's up with this guy? He bit my butt. It's like, what is wrong with this guy? And they're talking about two separate things. That was genuinely clever for me. But other than that, there's nothing else. There's also some weird, baffling editing going on in one scene near the end where you hear, a hiker scream. It's like, okay, so the bear got him. And then later the drug dealers are going walking along the same trail, and it's like, oh, this is it, but be careful. Remember what happened to that? Remember about that hiker we ran into? And then it cuts back to them walking along the trail and tripping over the hiker's mangled corpse. It's like, did we really need to see that? What is the point of that? It's like, that is just such a bad editing choice. And finally, I mean, the only last thing I feel like I could say about Cocaine Bear is it's kind of fun to see a mini Americans cast reunion. Because you got Carrie Russell as the mom, you got Margot Martindale as the park ranger, and while he gets he's very briefly in the opening, and then he dies. He's the drug dealer who's dropping drugs out of the plane. Is Matthew Rhys. You see, he's wearing sunglasses for for his one scene, and then he's, they do a close-up on his face. It took me a second to realize, wait, is that Matthew Rhys? Oh, it totally is. Cool. So that's really all I could say about Cocaine Bear. I know this isn't much of a review beyond what I usually do. But what do you think of Cocaine Bear if you saw it? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Do you agree or disagree with my analysis? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate whatever audience I can get. Be sure to look for my next movie review, which I believe will be for Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Either that or Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. Those are both coming out in March, I believe within a week of each other. So be sure to look for those coming out soon. And if you like this video or any other video on my channel, please give me a like, share, and especially subscribe. I would very much appreciate it. Again, thank you so much for watching. But just remember, there is nothing new under the sun. And yes, you have seen it before.